So tonight for dinner we're going to do a soup with beans and a ham bone to add flavor. So if you like making soups and you like watching my videos, please subscribe. Click down below to subscribe and click the little bell if you'd like reminders whenever I put up a new video, and join us for dinner. So to start, I filled a big pot with water and I started putting the pieces of ham in, and then we're going to put the ham bone in, which still has the meat on it, and we'll bring that with the beans put into the pot to a boil to get this started. So time to put in the ham bone at this point, since we got a decent bit of meat in there, and that'll get the ham bone cooking and adding flavor and making a nice broth for the soup. This is the bag of beans that I used. It's a 16 bean mix, so we dump that into the pot and get those all cooking. I put it onto a sort of high heat to get it going. Now you can soak the beans in advance, but we didn't. We just put them straight into the pot and started boiling them, so it might take a little bit longer that way. And the next thing we did was we chopped up the celery. I try to chop up and prepare everything that we can in advance. So there's the celery, there's the can of the whole tomatoes that we used for this soup. Off to the side, there's also the carrots that we'll be chopping next, but first we want to get all the celery chopped, so my husband graciously took care of that part. So some of the things I prepare in advance for the soup are the celery, which gets chopped in advance, and the cabbage as well. The cans for the green beans are already opened and drained, so what it comes down to it is towards the end of cooking the beans and the ham is when I'll dump in the celery that's already been chopped, the cabbage that's already been chopped, the cans of green beans that have been opened and drained, and there's also the tomato can that we'll open, drain that, and squeeze the tomatoes into the soup in order to give it the flavor with the tomatoes too. Also, one of the last things that we'll add in is the carrots, which we'll chop those just like we chopped the celery to put those into the soup. So it'll be chopped celery, chopped carrots, chopped up cabbage, the green beans, the tomatoes will all go into the soup with the ham that's already in there. Then we'll take the ham bone out, towards the end, and we have the beans in there. So it's going to turn out to be a really nice chunky bean soup. For the cabbage, since this is a recipe I got from my mother-in-law, we try to do things as similarly to her as we can. And so she recommended cutting the cabbage in half and then cutting it in chunks. So that's what you see here, is that we're cutting it in half and then cutting it in chunks and then just breaking up the chunks and putting that into the soup. And I gotta say, it turns out really well doing it this way. The pieces aren't too big and they're not too small either. Okay, this is the soup simmering. At this point, it has the ham in it. The bone's been removed now. It has the beans, the cabbage, and the seasoned packet in it. And we're waiting for the beans to get a little bit more tender before we add in the tomatoes, and then we'll have to add in the celery and the carrots still in the green beans. But it's simmering nicely, as you can see the bubbles there, and it's smelling good too. Now for the tomatoes, they need to be smashed. My husband tried to smash them up with a spatula, as you can see, but that wasn't working so well, so I did what my mother-in-law does, and I washed my hands, grabbed each tomato, and literally squeezed them into the pot, which caused a little bit of a spatter of the juice, but it worked really well in breaking down the tomatoes, as you can see, and integrating them into the soup better. Next, I put in the chopped up celery, as you can see here, because I wanted to get that in there and cooking and softened in the soup. And after that, I'll be adding in the green beans that I mentioned before. It's the regular green beans and the wax beans, and let me tell you, they tasted so good in the soup. So this is a finished view of the soup, and let me tell you, it tasted great. Thank you for watching. Please click subscribe and like below.